What's up? What's up, y'all? This is Erin LeBauer with LeBauer Consulting and the CashPT Lunch Hour. Thank you guys for being here. Go ahead and, if you're already here, while we're waiting for everyone else, give us a sign in the chat where you're calling in from and if you can hear us okay or hear me okay. I've got some awesome guests on today, and I'm excited to have them here with us. I see there's quite a few people already here, so we're just going to wait for everyone to get in the room. And if you're here on the webinar, you're in the right place if you're here for the CashPT Lunch Hour. So grab your food and your leftovers from last night. What I ate was beef stew with carrot, celery, and sweet potatoes, and that was my lunch. I already ate, so I'm not going to eat on the show. But go ahead and give us a sign in the chat where you're calling in from, and if you can hear us okay. What's up, Catherine? Hey, Peter. Karen is here from Los Angeles. Samantha in Phoenix. A lot of times we get people, I've had people from Alaska, the North Pole, Memphis, Bethesda, Tim, Denise. Awesome. So I'm super excited to have you guys join us. If you're just arriving, go ahead and check in and let us know where you're calling in from. Put a little note in the chat box you'll see, and just let us know that you can hear us. We're going to get started with the CashPT Lunch Hour in just a moment. I'm just going to wait for everyone to get here. If a live broadcast, if you have any technical issues, like the screen gets fuzzy or you can't hear or all of a sudden the video conks out, just make sure no one's playing video games on your internet or streaming Netflix. There's not someone in the other room doing a Law and Order marathon. And refresh your browser if something happens. What's up, John? What's up, Damon? Pauline, I see you guys awesome. We got New York, Michigan, Florida, New Jersey. We got California in the house, Seattle. Okay. So this is the CashPT Lunch Hour, and my name is Erin LeBauer with LeBauer Consulting and also the CashPT Nation. And I have some awesome guests on today. The NeuroCollaborative folks. This is Julie Hirschberg, Sarah King, Erin Cottle, and Claire McLean. And they are here calling in from California and Texas. And we all coordinated to get them here on the show because they run neuro cash-based practices, or they don't treat people who just had an ACL explosion. They treat patients with neurological deficits in a cash-based setting, and they're doing something that not a lot of people have been doing or are doing or think that is possible. So I wanted to have them on the show to share a little bit about them. So welcome, y'all. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to start with Claire. Claire, why don't you introduce yourself? Just let us know, just real quick, where you practice, how long have you been in practice, and how did you decide to get into a cash-based practice?
Okay, so hi, everybody. My name is Claire. I practice in Orange County, California, down in Fountain Valley. I work out of a gym, and I started my business about almost 2 years ago. I left a hospital-based outpatient job that I was working part-time there. I've always kind of done multiple different things. I've never actually had a regular full-time job since I graduated almost 10 years ago. So I've always done a few different things, but the outpatient practice, outpatient hospital was my main job at the time. And I left because I really wanted to be able to offer different services to people who have neurologic conditions. I specialize mostly working with people who have Parkinson's. And there's just such a need for people to have access to ongoing exercise. This is a degenerative condition over time. So this idea that episodic physical therapy about here and there, would do enough for people, I think is not true. And people really need access to really good exercise, evidence-based exercise on an ongoing basis. And I had the experience working at this hospital where we did start some classes. So after people finished physical therapy, they got to continue in the classes that we had. And we did assessments every 2 months and saw people continue to get better over the course of 2 and 3 years instead of my typical experience with people seeing them in physical therapy is that you'd work with them, they'd get better, they would be discharged from physical therapy. It was very difficult for them to continue with a home exercise program that was challenging enough to help them get better while being safe and them knowing what to do and how to do it and where to do it. So I really think that we should be providing spaces for people to continue exercising, and that's a big gap in the system. The other awesome thing about exercise is that it improves, so many aspects of health beyond just Parkinson's or the neurologic condition. We saw improvements in their weight, in diabetes, in blood pressure, in the chronic pain or the pain medication they had to take for chronic pain. So these classes I just really loved doing, and I wanted to expand the number of classes that were offered. And at the hospital, they said, really our focus is the therapy. We're not going to be growing this program of classes. So I said, okay, then I think now it's time for me to move on, because I have, what I really feel passionate about doing is providing ongoing access to exercise in a different setting as well. I think, sometimes hospitals and clinics can have a very clinical feeling. And so that's not necessarily where you want to spend a lot of your time. So I'm now working in Orange County out of a gym. So I'm space sharing where it's a gym and Anytime Fitness who has their regular membership. And then there's actually a physical therapy clinic who I originally started subleasing from. And I won't go into the whole story, but maybe we'll follow up on that later. But the PT clinic is working out of that space. And then I am also working out of that space. So I have access to a lot of equipment, cardio equipment, weights, TRX. We have a group fitness area. So it's really the right kind of space for what I'm doing. And then what I'm doing now is offering group exercise classes pretty much every day of the week, different types of classes. Also organized based on athletic ability so that we can really tailor the exercise. It can be challenging enough that people actually get better. It's not a maintenance program. It's really, my goal is that people are getting better over time. I also do individual wellness. I see some people in their home and some people at the gym. I have a class that's outside at a park that's really fun. I've done some different things like boot camps. I feel really strongly about all aspects of wellness, so that it's not just exercise. Nutrition is important, sleep, medication optimization. So I have the freedom to figure out how to work all these different things into my practice. So yeah, that's been about 2 years. And then I forget the last question that you asked, Erin.
That's okay. So why did you decide to do cash-based instead of like a traditional in-network?
Yeah. So basically, because my main goal was to offer ongoing access to exercise. So that is kind of in opposition of the traditional insurance-based therapy where, there's a certain amount of therapy per year, whether it's a dollar amount or certain number of visits. I knew that was never enough really for what I was trying to do. And what I'm doing is different. It's not physical therapy. Even the one-on-one is a wellness model. So it's more exercise-based. But I really wanted to offer ongoing access. So that to me felt like I needed to offer this on a cash basis, direct pay, try to make, the classes a reasonable cost for people so they can afford to do it year round, individual wellness, as needed if that's, somebody's preference. And then these boot camps and other offerings as well are not really the type of thing that insurance has traditionally paid for in the past. Maybe in the future there, if we can show that how much better people get, maybe insurance would cover things like that. But ultimately, I think that's not really the direction insurance is going. It's not really going the direction of paying for more. It's probably, if anything, going in the direction of paying less. Yeah. So I really just wanted to have the freedom to offer the services that I felt like people benefited from the most. And so, yeah, insurance just wasn't really going to cover that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
2 years in business. That's awesome. That's really great. So let's see, Erin, you're up next. So introduce yourself. Let us know where you practice and how long have you been in? How long, where, and why?
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm Erin Caudill, and I practice out of Los Angeles at a clinic called Reactive Physical Therapy and Wellness with Julie Hirschberg, who is on this call as well. I've been a PT for almost 10 years now and worked in neurologic settings my entire time. Started at Rancho Los Amigos and got some amazing experience and got my NCS. But again, kind of like you'll probably hear from all of us, similar to Claire's experience, we really felt passionate about helping keep people well and healthy and having access to all the things that they need in order to improve their lives, not just whatever their condition is, but just overall find a better life for themselves, get back to what they were doing before, maybe start new things, but just still live a very fulfilled life. So I joined up with Julie for reactive physical therapy and wellness about 5 years ago. In 2012 is when I joined her. So ever since then, it was a really awesome partnership and collaboration where we got to decide to expand on what we wanted to provide for people and sort of set our own rules. So our clinic is an out-of-network practice. We do accept Medicare, but we do have like a brick and mortar clinic. We share space with other PT clinics that are orthopedic based. And we offer one-on-one physical therapy. We offer one-on-one wellness. We offer classes. We have Parkinson's exercise classes, yoga for people with neurologic disabilities. We have an online subscription monthly class that we do. We do intensives. We kind of don't have any rules. We basically set whatever we want to do and we do it. So having Julie as like our lead partner, she's the main owner of the clinic. She really spearheads anything that you put in front of her. So I've had the great opportunity to work alongside her and develop whatever we want for people. Let me think. What else did you ask, Erin?
Who, what, when, where, how, and why. So, did you think about, did you think about doing it in network at some point, or was it just like,
okay, good question.
For what I want to do?
Yeah, so we never did want to go in network. Immediately from the start, Julie had started Reactive as just seeing some individual clients and like for cash and Medicare, I believe. And then when I joined on with her, we definitely felt like it was a better idea to stay out of network as much as possible. And at that time, we had been following along with Jared Carter, reading his blog, listening to his podcast. Well, maybe his podcast wasn't out yet, but just reading his material and just getting really inspired by the cash-based kind of network that was starting to get a lot of momentum. And we really felt like that was the way to go. With a neurologic diagnosis, you're going to be living with this potentially for the rest of your life. And you just can't rely, as a PT or as a person living with a diagnosis, you can't rely on what your insurance is going to get for you. So we wanted to set up a system where people could have this continuous access to high quality care, one-on-one, hour-long treatment sessions, or really catered to whatever they need. So we felt like staying out of network would really give us the best opportunity to do that. We did decide to stay in network with Medicare because the majority of the neurologic population has Medicare. And we wanted to kind of stay within the boundaries of what that was and using that as well as having some adjunct wellness services that they could pay out of pocket for. So that is like a whole big topic in itself. And we all have kind of different like approaches on Medicare. So it is a really interesting conversation to have at some point, but we serve like the entire neurologic population. We don't necessarily specialize in any particular thing, but we do have some population of patients that we see more than others, like Parkinson's and MS and dystonia, but then all the other things too, brain injury, stroke, etc.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Very cool. Very, very cool. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go. All right, Julie, I'm going to let you, since you guys are in business together, you're next. So just tell us just a little bit who you are, where you are, and why you are.
Great. Well, I feel like it's good that Erin shared most of that because I'm losing my voice. So thank you, Erin. So I have been in practice for 15 years. And I, much like Claire, have done a lot of different things. So I worked on a large research trial for 5 years. I worked in a hospital. I worked in an outpatient setting. I did home health. Kind of all of it. And I also had a couple kids and teach a neuropathology class at USC. So when I was working outpatient, I was actually told, and sometimes it's kind of a hard story for me to say, but basically, like we don't really want neuro. It's not making us any money. You're expensive because you're experienced, and we just don't think we can do it. So basically, I don't fired, laid off. I mean, it wasn't like an ugly thing. But it felt terrible and horrible. I was like, what do you mean you don't want neuro? I love neuro. So that was really eye-opening. And honestly, looking back, kind of the best thing that ever happened to me, right? So thank you for firing me. And really spurring me on. Like when you told me I couldn't do this, I really got like a fire in my belly to do it. And the only way that was going to happen, part of the reason they were saying this can't be done is because the hour-long sessions that I wanted. And I was like, well, they need this. You know, people are coming to me, they can't walk. I can't see them in 15 minutes and get them better. So that fire really has only grown and grown. But that's when I started Reactive. I started with 2 people and very politely asking Chris Powers if I could rent some of his really cool, awesome space. And he was very generous and he said, yeah. So I started with 2 people. It grew very, very quickly. And I had like 2 babies at home and I was wanting to be part-time. And by just, you know, the way the forces moved in the universe, Erin Caudle contacted me. We had little happy hour drinks and all of a sudden she was at Reactive. And grew from, you know, being there part-time to full-time pretty quickly. And from the get-go, we were just, you know, we were like this. We were acting like partners. And she just last year bought in as a part owner of Reactive, which is so awesome. So we're like married. And it's been instrumental to our growth. So we have been able to grow. We have 5 PTs and OT, 3 personal trainers, a couple of yoga teachers, which are amazing. We have a music therapist. So just a lot of fun things. And much like Erin said, like we don't put up any boundaries or walls of what is possible. And we really feel like we can live our dream of what people with neurologic disorders really, truly need to live a really full life. So that's it.
Really awesome. That's so cool. Thank you. That sounds awesome. So when did you start Reactive?
So that would be about 6 years ago. Okay. Really, Erin and I started talking only about 6 months in for me, because it grew so quickly. And I wasn't really looking to hire, and she wasn't really looking necessarily for a job. We were just hanging out, and she was talking about like, oh, what's it like to do this? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So everything has happened very like organically, unplanned, which, you know, sometimes leads to lessons learned the hard way when you haven't exactly planned it. Much of the reason why I love this group, the NeuroCollaborative, because we figured some things out the hard way and now in retrospect have really learned. And I'm so happy to be able to have Claire and Sarah and Erin to like learn from, but be able to also share that with other people.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's so great. Okay, Sarah, your turn. So just let us know like who you are, where you're from, how long you've been in business, and why did you decide to do it?
Okay. Well, I'm like in awe of these 3 ladies. I'm just sitting here like, you guys are my idols. But anyway, my name's Sarah King. I am obviously a physical therapist in Austin, Texas. My practice is Invigorate Physical Therapy and Wellness, and it's 100% specialized in helping clients diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And my model is in-home, but it's not home health. I'm set up as an outpatient therapist that can come to my client's home or office or meet in the park or whatever we need to be practicing. And I also, on top of seeing clients one-on-one, I recently developed a online program for patients called the Booster Program, which is a 5-week online Parkinson's exercise program. It's not physical therapy, it's more wellness. But I found that as soon as I dove into the Parkinson's world, which was really just kind of brought to me by the universe, it just kind of fell out of my passion for prevention and wellness and changing healthcare in general. But I found that people with Parkinson's and neurological diagnosis as a whole really need more support, need more of a community environment, need more attention than what I was able to give them in my outpatient job. I worked at a hospital-based outpatient clinic for the 2 years after I graduated. So I've been practicing for 5 years. Invigorate is a little over 2 years old. And I was our clinic's outpatient neurotherapist, and really got that way when I interviewed. I said, I like neuro. And he said, you're our neurotherapist. We don't have one. Nobody wants to see these people, which of course breaks my heart also, like Julie said. And so I just kind of fell into being our neuro clinician and didn't have a lot of mentorship available. Like I said, the other therapists in the clinic were not really enthused about seeing neuro clients. And so I started seeing a lot of, I saw my first Parkinson's client, and she had pretty much given up on being able to function on her own in 5 years. There's this rumor, I guess, or this myth, urban legend, that once you're diagnosed with Parkinson's, you'll be in a wheelchair in 5 years. And that was what she had bought into. And I wasn't even Parkinson's specialized at the time. I just knew the power of exercise. I asked her to give me 30 days to help her get her life back. She couldn't clean the house. She couldn't walk more than a mile. Her back hurt, her shoulder hurt, and she just given up. And so I said, give me 30 days before you give up on this whole thing. And after really 2 weeks, but after the 30 days were over, she was walking again. She had no shoulder pain, no back pain. She was like, you gave me my life back. And when you're like a healthcare practitioner who gets that said to them, like, you can't help but be addicted to that. So I got certified as Parkinson's therapist. I've always been passionate about wellness and prevention and really changing healthcare as a whole. And Parkinson's kind of fell out as my avenue to do that. So clients would only be able to get 6 visits through insurance. And I was fortunate that I could see my clients for an hour in my clinic. But they would only get 6 or so visits, and they would say, I need more. Like, I need more than this. I'm not even like to where I want to get to. And so they asked me if I could come see them in their home. And for a long time, I thought my wellness clinic that I wanted to start had to be brick and mortar, insurance, PTs, OTs, speech therapists, very similar to reactive. And then I started listening to Jared's podcast, and this concept of cash-based PT was so new to me that I was like, that's my avenue. So it's Parkinson's, CashPT, and lots of wellness and nutrition and education. In my outpatient clinic, I couldn't even give out a handout about drinking more water without it going like up the chain, like 8 people to say it's okay to tell your patients to drink water. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing to people here? So that really motivated me to step out on my own, started Invigorate, like I said, a little over 2 years ago. And it's done the same thing. It's really grown like gangbusters. I don't accept any insurance whatsoever. I'm not even out of network. I'm not a participating provider or a non-participating provider for Medicare. And I know that is different than my colleagues, but I have a healthcare attorney. I went through the paces of making sure that I knew all the rules and regulations for, CMS beneficiaries. I had my risk assessment in my business. I talked to my attorney. I've got all the paperwork in order. So in Texas, we don't have direct access. And, the Medicare rules and regulations are as they are. And I still see a full caseload of people who have Parkinson's. And I love it. So it can be done. If anybody's telling you it can't be, it just takes a little bit of research and perseverance and collaborating with other people like the people on this call, and people have been there to help guide you through it. So that's why I'm excited about the NeuroCollaborative as well. We can talk about that later, but that's pretty much where Invigorate is now and where I want to go.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. Congratulations. One of the big questions that I've had from people is, okay, well, how do I convince someone who's got a prescription for 3 visits a week for 6 weeks or 30 years or whatever, I mean, like I don't look at this anymore myself, but like with neuro patients who need more, maybe they don't, but the idea is that you've got a neurodiagnosis. It's not necessarily going to heal. It's you're just kind of going on the slow downgrade or decline, and you need more visits than just 5 to 6 in 2 months, or you need 3 visits a week, or 1 visit a week for the rest of your life, or something like that. How do you guys get around to convincing those patients to pay you in cash or to not use their insurance? And what's the can you answer that question for us? Because I think that's the one that everyone wants to know about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Claire, you can go first, I guess.
Okay. I guess I don't feel like I have the best answer for the question. The way I started was, working in this hospital outpatient practice. And so I feel like working there for 5 years, I was on the movement disorders team. I worked closely with the neurologist and the neurosurgeon who did DBS. I did a lot of educational lectures, going out to support groups. We had our own educational series. So by the time I started my business, I really had already built up a name for myself in the community. So I don't feel like I really ever had to convince anybody. By the time I started my business, there were people who were already seeking me out. So at the hospital where I worked, for the most part, we took insurance. Technically, we had the ability to take cash for people who wanted to continue afterwards. But, in the hospital setting, it's very expensive when it's cash-based. And so it never actually happened. Nobody ever chose to do that, even though people wanted to continue afterwards and were very willing to pay cash. But it does need to be a reasonable cost. So that kind of is one piece. But then by the time I left and started my business, I started with group classes and individual wellness and kind of just put it out there to the community that I had already built up, what I was going to be doing. And so I immediately had probably about 20 people who started in my classes. And then it's really just grown from there.
So you're doing something that they couldn't get at the hospital. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's part of it. There was at the hospital and elsewhere in Orange County, there are some places who are doing group classes, but they're usually relatively infrequent, like maybe 1 time a week. And, if 1 time a week is the only exercise you do, that's not really enough. At the hospital, they were continuing to do the class. And so I really didn't want to compete with them. People who were doing that class, I wanted them to continue because that was a good class where I left. So when I first started my classes, I started them on different days of the week with the goal that they were adding my class to their exercise program and continuing with the classes that they were doing. But elsewhere in the community, most of the classes, I would say, are not really exercise classes. I consider them more activity classes where people are getting out, socializing, moving. It's much better than staying at home, but the exercise is not at an intensity level that is high enough for them to actually experience changes. That's my personal opinion. So my goal was, to offer something different that really wasn't being offered in the community. Exercise classes led by a physical therapist with the goal of actually improving, keeping the classes at a size where there's enough individual attention and there can be enough intensity. Organizing the classes around athletic ability so that, you don't have too big of a span, because otherwise with Parkinson's, there's some classes in the community that are open to anyone. They can have up to 30 people in them. There are some people who come using a wheelchair. There's some people who are recently diagnosed. And in my opinion, that kind of class cannot be an exercise class where everybody is getting the amount of challenge they need to actually improve. So my classes are usually between 8 and 12 people. And people have to kind of be similar in terms of their athletic ability so that the class can really be challenging, so that they can get better. And that is still different. I mean, there are some people who use assistive devices who come to my class. But so that class, each class looks a little bit different from each other, but they're all a more challenging level. So my classes and what I was offering was something that wasn't really being offered anywhere else in the community. And people already knew my name from, speaking and the educational things I'd done. So right from the beginning, people were kind of seeking me out. Mm-hmm. Now, I would say there are people who are getting referred to me. Most of my referrals are word of mouth from other people who are in my classes. So there are some people who are coming to me where they don't really know that much about what I do. So I would say like that initial either phone conversation or sometimes a consultation in person, I am explaining why I'm doing the things that I am doing and why I'm not accepting insurance, why that isn't really congruent. When people need physical therapy, when I first meet them, I refer. There are multiple locations in Orange County that have good programs where people can use their insurance. So most people who come to my classes, I'm still recommending that they do physical therapy and use their insurance every single year, maximize that benefit, work on, specific things that we aren't able to address in classes because classes, we can't get to everything and we can't, tailor a program for each individual person. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of explaining to them how and why they should be using their insurance, helping them figure out where to go, and then also explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it's different. And so I would say, there have been a few people who have come to meet me who haven't ended up starting classes, but I think because they're getting referred by someone who's in the classes, they're hearing good things. And then when we talk, I think they usually get pretty, excited and they're kind of sold on that idea of why, it's this ongoing access and why it's different than insurance-based therapy. And kind of all the other benefits that they get, with working with me, the other educational things that I do, kind of the other mm-hmm. access that they have. I think they are kind of sold on why it's worth, paying some cash up front to have access to all of this information. And this community too. I really think the community that I'm building in Orange County is an amazing group of people who are, all have Parkinson's for differing numbers of years, but are doing amazing things. And their friends see that they are getting healthier over the course of a year or 2 years. Rather than progressing in their Parkinson's, right, which is what is expected. So I think a lot of times people are kind of already sold a little bit before I even meet them, which is helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, like in your practice, you're not doing physical therapy in quotes. You're doing more of you just mostly group classes and not performance, but exercise-based therapy group classes, that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, even though physical therapy is in the title of my business, and I expect that at some point I'll come back to that. But yeah, leaving my other job, my main goal was to offer ongoing access to exercise and the group classes. I really love teaching the group classes and they're a lot of fun too. So that was also part of my goal in leaving my other position, was just being able to do the things that I really enjoy doing, where it doesn't feel like work, being active myself, having a little more control over my schedule. Yeah. But yeah, so it's group classes and then individual wellness that is more exercise based.
That's awesome. That meets my definition of physical therapy.
It's really hard with this population to really separate physical therapy and wellness because, you'll say, is there skilled need? Well, in my opinion, there's always skilled need with this population. Is there medical necessity? How exactly do we define that? Is somebody who is recently diagnosed and, healthy, do they not have a medical necessity? I would argue they do because, the goal is to slow the progression of the disease over time. And so in my opinion, no matter what, if they have that diagnosis, they have a need, but it is a whole nother topic and area that we can maybe talk about another time, but it's hard to separate it. And, I think it's just, understanding kind of what the definitions are, how they're different. But it's a lot of gray area that I think all of us are trying to navigate and figure out, exactly how we're providing the services that we are and what the definitions of them are. But in this population, it's a lot less clear than in an orthopedic population in terms of what is physical therapy, what is wellness. A lot of times they'll say, if it's not physical therapy, then it's because your goal is maintenance. And it is not. My goal is not maintenance for people. My goal is for them to get better. But you can do that, in various different ways.
That's
great. So technically what I'm doing right now is wellness. That is how I'm providing it.
Yeah, awesome. Julie, in y'all's practice, what are you guys doing to kind of, whether it's offer something different or when someone says, well, my doctor, I like these air quotes, doctor says I need 3 visits, for 12 weeks, 3 visits a week for 12 weeks. How do you kind of convert that patient into a patient of yours, or how are you kind of transitioning people out of the mindset that they need 3 visits a week forever for this disease process and to come to you guys? Or even if you are treating them for 3 visits a week, how are you convincing them to, set aside their insurance for the visits?
Right. Gosh, maybe thank goodness we don't get very many of those like prescription referrals, and maybe that's part of what we are. Like we do get referrals from doctors, but they're kind of like, do what you need. We know you work miracles, whatever. So we don't get a lot of people that come in like, I need 3 times a week. So we of course it's very individual, but in general, as a group, all of us, all of the PTs and OTs at Reactive, we sit down with the person in that first initial evaluation, or if they're coming in maybe for like a free consult and spending a few minutes with us, we lay out for them, like typically somebody might need to start a little more frequently. And actually for us, more frequently means once a week. So they may start with us once a week for, let's say, about 6 weeks. I would say that's the average. And then we will, because most people with a neurologic disorder do need care over a longer period of time, I just had this conversation with my new eval yesterday. Here's our typical thing: 1 time a week for 6 weeks. Then we'll probably do every other week for a month or 2. And then we'll do once a month. And then we'll go to, depending on how well you're doing, every 3 months or 6 months. And then I said, then you're going to check in with me every 6 months, just like your dentist. And we've done this fabulous baseline today, and we will then be able to monitor your progress. We're going to make sure that you're not declining and you're staying at this level. So we're going to use that 6 weeks to really get you to this level. We spend an hour with you, and we're in this together. We're going to need a lot from you at home to really make this happen. And kind of set up almost like a package for them like that. We often will say, for example, if they have a really specific need for occupational therapy, this is going to really augment. So maybe you'll come in for OT 1 time a week, 1 time for PT, or you know what, this yoga class that we have on Saturdays, this would be a really good piece of the picture for you and help really, really increase your benefit. All of those are lower cost than a one-on-one PT. So we had a recent patient that Erin set up for an intensive. She flew down. She's in LA for a month. She's coming to therapy 5 to 6 days a week. And she's doing therapy. She's working with one of our PT students. She's working with a yoga therapist. She's going to yoga class. She yesterday told me she was 70% improved after 3 weeks of this. And she, she's a new woman at this point. But we tell them exactly what to expect too. Like, you're here now. This guy yesterday, he's like 50% in his walking ability, and he's falling every week. And I said, give us 6 visits and you are going to be 75% in your walking ability and you will stop falling. I know that we can get there. So we give them really concrete outcomes. Here's what to expect. Here's what it's going to be. And the value is really clear. I think we attract people who want that particular value.
Awesome. So what's
do you guys see that in the comments they're saying the stream is down?
Yeah, that's
trying to see if we get people. Okay. Yeah,
that's okay. So if you're having technical issues, just refresh your browser. A lot of times that'll take care of it. If you have other programs running, that'll do it. Press the reconnect button, and you can always catch us on the replay or the website or the podcast when it comes out. So, awesome. Thank you, Julie, for sharing that. So I want to shift to a little bit different question. Let's go to Sarah. So what's the number one? So we're going to go off of this kind of same theme, but it's marketing. Like, how do you get new patients? What are you doing? What's the number one thing you're doing to find new patients for your practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think to answer directly is most of my marketing has been online, and also getting involved in the community. Something I did that ended up working out really well. I didn't plan it this way, but I started volunteering as soon as I was passionate about Parkinson's. I started volunteering for a local group here in Austin called Power for Parkinson's. They offer free exercise classes to people with Parkinson's and their care partners. So I reached out to them and just said, this is a group that I'm really passionate about. This is my background. How can I help? And I started writing their newsletter. Eventually, it grew into a board position, which was very generous of them. Again, all unplanned, but I got to go out and meet the people that I wanted to serve. So I've spoken at Power for Parkinson's. I've hosted a few wellness workshops just for free to bring in people with Parkinson's and their care partners to talk about exercise, nutrition, stress management. There's another group in town that's also a Parkinson's more support group style, and they meet once a month, and they've invited me. I reached out to them and just told them my background, and they invited me to come and speak to the group. And so it's taken a little time, I think, going that route. But when you get involved in the community and the people that you're trying to serve, especially in a neurological population, I think they're a little bit hesitant to invest themselves in you as a therapist if they're not sure you're going to be around for a while, since they know that they're a long-term, they have a long-term need. They want to build that relationship. And so I'm already a relationship builder as it is. I love talking to people, seeing people in person. And so I volunteered, I spoke at some local community events. And then most recently, I've started to do a lot of online education via Facebook Live and through my public page for Invigorate. And that overlaps with some of the marketing I'm doing for my online program, the Booster program. But I put on a free 30-day challenge for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers that they don't have to be on Facebook for. So it's completely email-based. And I've shared that resource with a number of support groups in the area and nationally and internationally even. And so I get on Facebook every 2 weeks to talk about some Parkinson's topic. Right now we have a nutrition series going that's 4 videos, so it's over the course of 8 weeks. And I just get out there and I put my face out there and I let people ask questions. And as providers, I think we're a little hesitant to do that because we're afraid of someone calling us out. I think I saw in the questions, I was just reading through, what certification do you have to be a personal trainer or to give nutrition advice or to, be able to give some of these educational talks that are outside of exercise. And I would just want to empower people. Most of us have doctorates of physical therapy now, and certifications that make us providers that are able to talk to wellness and movement and to embrace that as practitioners and not be afraid to get on video and share with your audience what you know, because you know more than you likely do. People don't know that exercise is good for you if you have Parkinson's or neurological conditions. So I do a lot of Facebook Lives. I turn those into Facebook advertisements. Like I said, I do a free challenge. And I've done some newspaper advertising in Austin. Fortunately, I haven't been in the position where I need to do a lot of local marketing for my one-on-one service. I'm at a point where I have a wait list just by word of mouth, which is really great. But since I see people 2 to 3 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks in this little intensive that I offer, my schedule gets filled up pretty quickly. And they sometimes re-up on their 12-session package if they're appropriate. So I don't need a high volume of patients to maintain my income. And online, a combination of getting involved in the community and online has really been what's worked.
That's awesome. So how many patients do you see a week?
Patients or visits?
Oh, patient visits. How many visits do you see a week? How many patient visits?
I do probably around 16 to 18 patient visits in a week. Mm-hmm. My threshold is about 15 visits that I need to maintain. kind of where I'm at. And I take a whole day off of practice. My Wednesdays right now are my admin days that I can work on my online program and give what I need to the boosters that are in my online program. So, 18 to 20 visits in a week is a very full week for me.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
And then, and you're seeing people a couple times a week. Are the people that you're seeing, is there other option to go somewhere else that's in network?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And then why are they choosing to come to you?
Why did they come to me?
Yeah.
So I think being specialized, being in a niche is really helpful. Just letting people know this is all I do. I just do Parkinson's and I'm all in. And I think that's helpful. But to build on what we were talking about earlier, as far as setting expectations with clients, I do a free 20-minute consultation with people who are interested in working with me. And I set up from the get-go, I'm not a lifelong provider. I can see you throughout your lifetime, but I have, I'm certified in the POWER program. It's 2 to 3 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks. Your goals that you told me, you want to be able to walk without a walker. You want to be able to get on and off the floor. You want to be able to skip or run or do a 5K. Like at the end of 12 sessions, we're going to get you to these goals. And you're going to be armed with an exercise program. You're going to be part of our online community. You have access to me, but I don't want to see you for a lifetime. Continuously. And then I help people transition into the community exercise program. I have a follow-up series so that I check in every 3 months with people to just see how they're doing, to see if they need to come back to therapy just for a checkup. So I give them a set time, and I think that helps. When you have a lifelong condition, you think you're going to be in therapy for life. And I think knowing that you have only 6 weeks to work really hard, like Julie was saying, like work really hard with me, and the results will come, and then we'll support you as you need after that.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to take a few questions from the audience. So I've got a question. Let's see. All right. This is from Denise. Oops. Nope, hit the wrong one. There it is. Okay, for the wellness aspect of this, so I'm going to ask, Erin, you and Julie, you guys are Medicare providers, is that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Erin, I'll let you answer this one. For wellness, however we define wellness, well, how do you separate wellness from maintenance? Which Medicare's ruled as a covered service? So, I'll let you start. Like, what's the difference between wellness and maintenance for you guys, and how are you treating that?
Always an interesting question. And as Claire was talking about a lot too, for neuro, this just comes up so much more and is just so much more convoluted, I think, than in ortho practice or anything else. The way that we kind of separate it, we think like wellness it still can have goals. Like I have wellness goals for myself. I want to be a faster runner or better at yoga or things like that. So like the people that we see who've done physical therapy and are making goals towards their physical therapy goals, they're making progress towards their physical therapy goals, functional wise. That's kind of their PT stuff. So function-based stuff. I feel like I'm already kind of rambling in words that don't make a lot of sense, but I'll try to be kind of clear. So physical therapy has like established functional goals, outcome measures, things like that we talk with a person and really get what are the pieces that a skilled PT would need to help them with. If there's manual therapy involved, if there's just like really specific, measurable, outcome-based things that we're going to work with them on. So that's part of their PT program. But let's say they still maybe need other help in order to stay fit throughout the rest of the week. They come to see us for one time a week. Well, they don't want to work out by themselves, or they can't necessarily work out by themselves, the other days of the week. So, but they don't need PT to work out with them or to carry out their home program or to do their walking program. So that could be more of their wellness part. Like maybe they want to just pay out of pocket to work with one of us to help them stay healthy, to still work towards their other goals. But it's not necessarily medically necessary. You know what I mean? So we could offer them to have a wellness visit with one of the PTs or with a trainer. Sometimes we we can separate that a little bit, work with a PT for wellness or a trainer to make it less confusing. And it's also a different price. So that can help people decide if they want to do one versus the other. But we try to just keep it a little bit separate as far as like, we try to think about the medical necessity. And I think that still is a gray area, but as much as we can make it be about like staying healthy, staying fit, like you don't necessarily need my skilled knowledge and my skilled hands to help you to achieve something, then maybe that's more of a wellness thing. Maybe someone can add to that.
Can I jump in real fast?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Yeah, because this is something that I hope that people can take and really dive into defining what each one is, because that's going to unlock a lot of your ability to practice. I know that's what happened for me. I was terrified to see people on Medicare because I couldn't differentiate for myself what maintenance versus wellness was. And actually, Erin, I think you did a really great job explaining that. But I think what people don't recognize is there is skilled physical therapy that's restorative. There's skilled physical therapy that's maintenance. And then there's non-skilled therapy, which is wellness. And in my practice, I've mentioned this before elsewhere, but I have flow charts that take people through, have they had a recent decline in function? Or have they been stable for 3 months? Have they had skilled physical therapy before and now they're just looking for accountability? Those can direct you to, are you doing skilled restorative therapy where maybe they had a fall or they had an illness that you're trying to get them back up to where they were previously, even though they have a degenerative condition? Or are they coming to you because they want some skilled, they have functional goals, like Erin said, that they want to achieve, but they haven't had like this decline in function before? That could be skilled, but maintenance a little bit. And then if they've, they've done 12 sessions with Julie, and they've been working towards goals and they're independent with their home exercise program, they have the resources, and now they just need an accountability partner. And they don't need that hands-on, that one-on-one attention to do it safely, then that's more of the wellness. And so for any of you who are wondering about the difference, if you go into the CMS regulations, and I did this by encouragement of Jared Carter, go in and read what it means for CMS to say what restorative or rehabilitative therapy is, what it means to be maintenance therapy by CMS definition, or to be a fitness and wellness, because you'll find the definitions in there, and then you can set your own definition of what you're comfortable treating from there. But
that's
I think
awesome.
look at CMS, yeah.
I've heard some people explain the wellness versus skilled therapy based on whether they need to physically touch a patient or not. But then, but that may be more in an ortho mind. But at the same time, I'm a massage therapist as well as a PT. And just because I touch a patient doesn't mean that it's medically necessary.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it unskilled therapy either, because as a massage therapist, my hands-on skills are better than my classmates in PT school. So I think the take-home point is everyone has to kind of make their own definition of what skilled therapy is based on what you said, Sarah. The definitions of Medicare, if you're treating Medicare beneficiaries.
Right.
Yeah. If we're treating people with private insurance,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter as in the same way. Right. Anyone else have anything else to add about that, or?
Well, I agree with like Denise's comment in the side that there's not much of a difference between the two, but we just have to separate it because of being careful with Medicare and insurance. But in general, we really just look at the person. We don't really want to look at their insurance and make that dictate what they need and what we can do. We look at the person, what do they need? And then we talk to them about what's realistic, what guidelines we have to follow, what they have to follow, what they need to know about it. And that's kind of how we try to direct our care. It's not based on what the payer source is. It's really about their need.
Awesome. So, there have been a couple questions in the chat about, what are you guys charging for your visits? I guess let me reframe it in a way. like, how are you deciding what to charge? Are you charging different things for wellness, maintenance, group classes, individual one-on-one? Is it based on whether it's a therapist or someone else? Like, what are you guys doing?
So at Reactive, we charge the same price if it's a CashPT session or a Cash Wellness with a PT, and that's $150. We have personal trainers, and their rate is $60 an hour. We have PT students that work with us, and we actually are able to offer like discounted sessions that patients can pay for either wellness or like a PT session with a student. I guess it wouldn't be a PT session with a student, but like a session with a student for a discounted cash rate that's like half of our price, $75. Our classes are we base those a little bit more on like how many people come in the class and sort of set like what we need to be able to come away with for that hour. So our Parkinson's exercise classes are a little bit cheaper. They're $10 to $15 a session. And then our yoga is more like $25 a session because it's a smaller group. And then we also have like a Parkinson's class that's for people with more mobility impairments. That's $25 a class because it's also a smaller group and needs to stay smaller for the right amount of intensity and help that people need.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, so it sounds, you guys, I saw your website, you got like a whole menu of different services.
We have a lot of things. Like we really don't have any limitations in what we offer.
Yeah. And I think like the perspective you want to look at is how much do we need to make per hour to, keep the business afloat, have there be some profit, pay all the employees. And so I think rates will potentially be different depending on what your location is, and us being in Southern California, cost of space and everything is higher. And then also, I think we also have a population that sometimes is used to paying for things a little bit more, like maybe used to having a personal trainer. So they already see the value in working with someone, but then they see the value in working with someone who has, more experience and education. And I think that transition is a little bit easier here than in some locations where that may not be as common. So I think, setting that hourly rate. And I also think a lot of us used kind of the rate where for Medicare, not for Medicare, but for cash-based, typically the expectation is that you're charging something within a certain percentage from what you would bill insurance or be reimbursed. So I think that also kind of helps set the pricing. That you're not supposed to, well, I don't know all the details and how all the limitations for how much less or more you could charge. But I think that's all how we all used pricing to guide our set prices. So then if the goal is $150 per hour, then you kind of set your small groups or classes or boot camps or anything else you do based on how many people are going to be in that session. Because otherwise, if you, let's say, made a lot less on a group class, then over time for your business, it's not really going to make sense to do that. So are you guys hearing a lot of echo?
No, we're good.
A little bit.
Okay. You want to make sure that you can have the same income for different things so that you can give the same time and effort and continue those as your business grows. And I think it's good to, have all that in mind right as you get started, because we've also talked a little bit too about, if you start too low and realize pretty quickly you need to increase your prices, that can be a challenging experience to notify people of increased prices. So really take the time to think about, what you need to cover what you're doing.
Right on. Let me ask, I got one more question for everyone. This is the lightning round. Okay. Someone wants to start a cash-based neuro practice. What's your number one recommendation? Julie, what is it?
I just say, do it. I mean, need you. I would say, we started the NeuroCollaborative. We've got this great group of people, us included, but people from all over the world to support each other, to learn, to mentor each other, to grow together professionally. That would be the number one thing to do. So you can just do it because we need more of you.
Awesome. Awesome. Sarah, what's your number one thing? Like, someone wants to start a cash-based practice. What do they need to, in neuro-based, like, what do they need to do? What do they need?
I would say, like Julie said, actually, seek out the people who have done it before, know your niche, and then do your research. You can start a neuro-based physical therapy practice. There are some obstacles maybe that our colleagues maybe don't face as much, but if you do your research and collaborate with people who have been there before, figure out who you love to serve and who you serve best, and then make it happen, because we need you. I mean, we need people on the forefront. So do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Erin, like, what do you think? Like, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, if it has to be one thing, I would say you should watch our video on NeuroCollaborative about the 7 steps to carving out your neuro niche in a non-neuro world, because that will help you get started and figure out what you need in order to live your dreams and help all the people that need you.
Awesome. That's very cool. And Claire, did I ask you, like, anything else? Like, like, what's the one thing that held you back from getting started, or that you've like, oh, if I had only done that earlier, I would have been started earlier?
I really think that the timing worked out really well for me. So I'm actually pretty happy. I feel like I gained a lot of, experience working with this population, building kind of my name in the community. So I feel like all of that worked out well. But the one recommendation I would say is to get a flexible job as you start to grow your business. And I think this is the same for a lot of people in the ortho world who make the transition, but maybe people in the neuro world aren't thinking as much about, okay, if I get this one job, whether it's some registry or home health or something else that's a little bit flexible, then that allows me to start building my practice. And because I think a lot of people in neuro, a lot of people are working in hospital-based settings. And so they're thinking that they're going to have to go from one and fully transition to the other one, because a lot of times there isn't as much flexibility in an outpatient, hospital-based neuro program. So you're either full-time or you have set hours. There's not a lot of flexibility. So I'd say maybe either if there's any flexibility there, try to get that flexibility, or transition to a different type of job for a period of time. Like Erin did registry when she first started at Reactive. And then I think she only did it for like 2 months because she got so busy so quickly. But if you have that backup where you can have enough income, I worked on research projects, you can teach, you can work for registry or home health, do something else that is a little bit more flexible so that you can then be building your practice on the side. And I think it can really just grow so quickly because there is such a need. So once people hear what you're doing and you get started, I think it does just grow. Our experience has all been that it grows really quickly. So just like figuring out how you can make that transition happen and not feel like you have to go straight from one to the other.
Awesome. That's a great point. So Claire, tell us, if someone wants to find you online, where do they find you?
Right now, I'm in transition. So my business name was Claire McLean Physical Therapy and Wellness. Facebook is where I'm the most active. And I post a lot of videos of exercise and things that I really like. So definitely follow my page on Facebook. I'm transitioning to a new name, Rogue Physical Therapy and Wellness. So once I transition, nope. The do not disturb didn't work on the computer. But once I transition, the Facebook page will still be the same, just Rogue Physical Therapy and Wellness will be the name. And then I'll have a website at some point in the future. I'm also on Twitter at CEMcLean11. I'm not as active on Twitter as on Facebook. So Facebook is the best place to connect with me.
That's awesome. And Sarah, how about you? What's the best place to connect with you online? Where do people find out more about you?
Invigorate Physical Therapy and Wellness is at invigoratept.com, on Facebook as Invigorate Physical Therapy and Wellness, and Twitter is at Invigorate, Invigorate. I'm also not very active on Twitter. Invigorate PT, 4, and then PD, Invigorate PT for PD.
Awesome. And then you've also got, if someone wants to check out your online programs for Parkinson's, is that on your website?
They can do that on my website. I'm sure Erin can post a link, but it's invigoratept.com/booster, BOOSTER. And that's all the information on the 5-week program. The 30-day challenge, if you want to encourage your Parkinson's patients to follow along, it's a free challenge. It's invigoratept.com/30. and then day challenge, 30-day challenge.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Erin, how about you? Where's everyone going to find you?
So I'm on Twitter at eCaudillPT, and also just through Reactive. Our website is reactivept.com. There's more of us as well on NeuroCollaborative. So we have at NeuroCollab on Twitter, and iloveneuro.com is our NeuroCollaborative website that you can find us on. We have blog posts, we have videos and lots of goodies there.
Okay, yeah. Wonderful, awesome. And then Julie, thanks. Thank you, Erin. Julie, what about you?
Yeah.
Where do we find you?
So I maybe am at the most on Twitter of this group, and I'm just at Julie Hirschberg, super easy. I use Twitter for my class, so you'll see a lot of little neuropathology facts come flying through my Twitter feed. And then, reactivept.com, and email is a great way to get a hold of me, julie@reactivept.com.
Very cool. Awesome.
And then I just wanted to add too, for NeuroCollaborative on Facebook, we have a page that we post, updates from. And then we also have a group that we've started for that's called NeuroCollaborative Professionals. And so that's the best place to join that group, to have, further discussions like this. And share a lot of information. So we've had some really good conversations on there so far. And that's what we're really hoping to grow with NeuroCollaborative, is the community and the sharing of what we're all doing, and, having the opportunity to ask questions. So I would definitely recommend anyone who's interested to join that group too.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome. And for anyone who can't catch all that stuff, audio wise, because you don't learn from the audio stuff, I will put all the links on the blog post, and I post this to the blog in the next week or so. If you're listening to this as a replay or on podcast, it'll already be available. So just head over to lebauerconsulting.com, look up, probably just search for Neuro, and you'll find us. And I'll put all the links and Twitter handles and everything in there as well. I just want to thank you guys so much for being here today, taking the time out of your day to come talk to us. And as listeners, I want to thank you for setting aside your day to come listen to these awesome ladies talk about cash-based neuro PT. And it's really, the theme that I get is it's not just the diagnosis, it's about doing what's right for your patients and doing it in a way that's not inhibited by other people. So other than you and your patients. So for the NeuroCollaborative and LeBauer Consulting, this is Erin LeBauer. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for inspiring us, Erin.
Oh, you are very welcome. I appreciate it.